Welcome back to Kat's Kitchen. My name is Kat, and today I'm going to show you how to make a homemade pistachio syrup. This syrup is so easy to make. You need 4 total ingredients, and you can use it to make all of your favorite pistachio drinks like a pistachio latte, pistachio cold brew, cold foam. So many delicious things you can do with pistachio syrup. So let's dive into the recipe. Ingredients you'll need: 1 cup pistachios. These are shelled pistachios and they are roasted and salted. Lots of confusion about what shelled means. Shelled is no shell, not like in a shell. Shelled is no shell. You don't want the shell on your pistachios. You want them shelled. I keep getting DMs like, I bought shelled, but there's shells on them. Shelled, roasted and salted pistachios, 1 cup. 1 cup of granulated cane sugar, 1 cup of water, and 1 teaspoon of flaky sea salt. I love flaky sea salt. Love it in all my recipes to just really bring out the sweetness and the flavor of the syrup. Skip it, don't skip it, do whatever you want to do. Up to you. If you're using a regular like table salt or pink salt, something like that, I would do half a teaspoon and then add more if needed. So let's get into the recipe. This is how easy it is to make this syrup, right? Watch. To a pot, I like a decent sized pot or saucepan. That way it doesn't bubble over. So this is a good size. I don't know how many quarts this is. 2 quarts, 2-quart pot / saucepan. Add pistachios to the pot. Add the sugar. Again, 1 cup and 1 cup, and 1 cup of water. All over the top, and then I just like to stir it to kind of dissolve the sugar a little bit. Look how beautiful this is already. Gorgeous. Note, I did not add the salt just yet. I like to add this at the end just to make sure the syrup doesn't come out too salty. The pistachios are salted, so just in case they come out a little more salty, I like to add the salt at the end after I've tasted the syrup to see if it needs some or not. So far, every time I made this, this is my 5th batch, every time it's been yes, but just in case, I like to keep it at the end. If you love salt and aren't afraid of it being too salty, you can add it in now if you want. I like to wait and add it at the very end. But this saucepan, is this a pot or a saucepan? Saucepan goes on the burner. Turn it all the way up to high and bring it to a roaring boil, and then we'll let it simmer for 10 minutes. Pot is on the burner, and I'm just gonna turn it all the way to as high as it can go and let it get to a roaring boil. Lots and lots of bubbles. While the pistachio syrup is coming to a boil, I like to preheat the oven because we're going to roast the pistachios after we're done making the syrup. That way we don't throw the pistachios out. So I have my oven preheating to 375 so I can scoop out the pistachios, put them on a baking sheet, and then bake them so we can have some crispy candied pistachios. Totally optional step, but that way you're not throwing away perfectly good pistachios. Don't throw them away. Don't throw them away. Put them on a baking sheet and bake them. So oven is preheated to 375 and we'll bake them once the syrup is done simmering. All right, pistachio syrup is bubbling. This is what we want to see. Roaring boil, lots and lots of bubbles. All right, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Once it reaches this point, turn this down to a simmer and let this simmer for 10 minutes. Alexa, set a 10-minute timer. Alrighty, pistachio syrup is done boiling and simmering. And then I just like to give it a little taste again to double check that it's okay to add the salt. You know what I mean? Just to double check. It's hot. Yeah, definitely okay. Definitely okay. I'm gonna add the whole thing. And then mix. And then mix. Whew. This is one of my favorite syrup flavors. I think my top fave is my homemade brown sugar syrup. Second fave is my homemade pecan syrup. And then pistachio is my 3rd. And blackberry is my 4th. Once salt has been mixed in, I'm just going to do one more final taste test, make sure it's perfect. Oh yeah. The addition of salt is so perfect. Does not make it salty. It really just brings out all of the delicious nutty pistachio flavor. It's like almost muted without the salt. And then after you add salt, OMG, so good. Oh, fabulous. Wow. Okay, next step is to strain out the pistachios. Someone asked me if the pistachios dissolve in the water when you boil them. No, they do not dissolve. They're very much still pistachios. I use a little baby strainer to scoop them out, tap out as much of the syrup as possible. Even try squeezing them out a little bit. And then add them to a baking sheet because we are going to bake these babies. I know they're already roasted, but roasting them longer isn't going to like ruin them or anything. They'll just kind of crystallize, like the sugar water, basically the syrup on them will help them crystallize and get nice and sweet. And then they're basically candied pistachios, which are awesome. So it's like a 2-in-1 recipe that I love, love, love. Right now, the pistachios are soft. They're soft and soggy because they've been soaking in hot liquid, which is why you need to bake them. You can't, if you just let them, you know, dry at room temp on their own, they're not gonna get crunchy and hard. You wanna dry them out again now that they've soaked up all of this liquid and moisture, all the liquid. Again, I'm just squeezing these out to make sure I get as much syrup as possible out of these babies. You could also, if you have a larger strainer, dump them all out into one strainer instead of fishing them out with a smaller one. But I don't know if you guys have seen my blackberry syrup video where I did that with the blackberries, and literally crime scene all over the table. I made such a mess, and so I vowed to never do that again because I could have hurt myself. All right, and so I have these pistachios. They're all gone out of there. Pistachios are on a baking sheet lined with some parchment paper, and then I just flatten them out to make sure all the pistachios are touching the parchment and they're not like stacked on top of each other. Flatten them out. Oh, they're so beautiful. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I love pistachios. Yum, 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 yum. And then we bake at 375 for 10 to 15 minutes. Keep an eye on them because you don't want them to burn. Put them in for 10 minutes and then check on them every couple minutes. They should be ever so slightly golden, but not burnt, okay? 10 to 15 minutes at 375. Alexa, set a 10-minute timer. The flavor profile of this syrup is very nutty. So a nutty pistachio flavor. I wouldn't say it's super duper strong. It's more of a subtle nutty flavor, but very pleasant in coffee, very pleasant by the spoonful. It's like a buttery, nutty vibe. So good, so good. All right, so now what I do is I just let this sit on the counter for an hour to 2 hours until it's completely cooled, and then I'll add it into a syrup bottle like this. This is my brown sugar syrup that I just made. I'll link this recipe in the description below too, because it's my fave. But this glass bottle, I don't like adding the hot liquid into it because I don't want it to crack and break. So let this syrup cool completely before adding it into like a glass container. You can do a syrup bottle, you can do a mason jar, whatever you want, but let this cool completely, transfer it to your airtight container, and then you can store it in the fridge for up to 3 weeks. Don't put it on the counter. It's gonna start growing bacteria and get an ick because there's no preservatives in this. Just sugar, water, pistachios, salt. You wanna store this in the refrigerator. Up to 3 weeks. If you want to use it in a recipe right away, you absolutely can. You don't have to wait for it to cool down for you to use it. You can use it right away. But I let it cool before adding to the fridge. Before storing it in the fridge, I do like to just run the syrup through a strainer before adding it into my syrup bottle or mason jar. Because there's like some like pistachio skin floaties going on in here. And I don't like that in my coffee. So just strain it out, put it in the fridge once it's cooled down. Check on the pistachios. They need just a little bit more time. So I added 2 more minutes to the timer and they should be perfect. Alrighty, it's been 12 minutes. They look perfect. Just a little browned, but not burnt. That's what we want to see. That's exactly what we want to see. 12 minutes is perfect. I think I've done that every single time now. Here's what they look like up close. A little toasty. Gorgeous. I will try one, even though they are hot, hot, hot. Yummy. A little sweet, a little salty. Feel free to add more flaky sea salt on top if you want. Actually, you know what? Doing it. Doing it. Then just let these cool, and then you can store them in an airtight container and then put them on the counter, and they'll be good for like a week. You can add them on top of salads, eat them as is. Once they cool down, they'll harden and be like real crunchy. Right now they're warm, so they're still a tad bit soft. And there you have it, homemade pistachio syrup along with some candied pistachios. And that took like very minimal effort. And here's the color of the syrup. Just wanted you to see it's like a brownish color. Again, there's some little like pistachio floaties in there, so strain that out before you put it in your mason jar or your syrup bottle. But yum. All right, and then for the syrup, once it's cooled down quite a bit, still a little bit warm, but much cooler. I just strain it using that same strainer we used to pull out the pistachios, and then just put it in your mason jar or syrup bottle. That way it catches any of those extra bits that you don't want in your syrup. And then this way you can see that beautiful color too. Gorgeous. Ugh, so good. So good. Homemade pistachio syrup, only 4 ingredients and like not even 5 minutes of work. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. I hope you love your homemade version of the pistachio syrup. If you're looking for more of a pistachio sauce rather than a syrup, do 1 part sweetened condensed milk, 2 parts syrup. So like half a tablespoon of sweetened condensed milk and 1 tablespoon of this syrup. Mix it together to make it more of a paste consistency. And that would be closer to like the Starbucks pistachio sauce. Since this is a syrup, the sauce just has sweetened condensed milk, makes it a little bit sweeter, creamier, thicker. Perfect way to make a sauce out of a syrup. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you love this recipe as much as I do, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah! Got a blast. Got a blast. I'll be eating all of these today. Ooh, you hear how crunchy that one was? Mm-hmm. Oh, baby.